Not too long ago, Subaru introduced their first electric vehicle, the Subaru Solterra. And now for the 2026 model year, the Solterra has been, and I truly mean thoroughly re-engineered almost from the ground up to be a much more better vehicle than that previous facelifted version of the Solterra was. We are getting all new styling inside and out. A lot of crazy new things have been actually happening underneath the body of this vehicle. We're getting a new charging port standard as well, and a whole new suite of tech and safety features that are now all being offered on this 2026 Subaru Solterra. Though in this video, of course, we're going to take a full in-depth and tour and review of all of the new features that we're seeing on the Solterra. But the real question here is, are all these upgrades on this 2026 Subaru Solterra helping it to stand out against so many new competitors in this electric SUV space? We're going to find out today in this video. Let's go dive in. Popping open the hood underneath the Subaru Solterra, you're going to find a whole lot of stuff that's not going to be storage, because the Solterra never really had a front trunk, thanks to all of the stuff shoved under here and all of the electronics. Now for 2026, like I said, a lot has been changed. And if you weren't aware, the Solterra is a joint project between Subaru and Toyota. It's pretty similar to what we're going to find on the all-new updated Toyota BZ SUV, as well as the upcoming Subaru Trailseeker and Subaru Uncharted EVs, all sharing a lot of similar components. Now, this particular Solterra for 2026 is now getting a larger battery pack, around 74.7 kilowatt hours, which that also means a little bit more range. So now the vehicle can go up to around 288 miles on a charge, depending on your trim, which is really nice. Now, we're also getting an all-new high-voltage battery crash structure on this vehicle, which is both helping to kind of make the chassis a little bit more stiffer, but also helping to improve underbody protection as well for this battery. We're also getting new silicon carbide inverters on the motors. The motors themselves have been updated for 2026, and on top of that, we also have new motor mounts as well. So all of this is creating a much more cohesive, a little bit stronger chassis. Now, we're also getting more power for 2026, up to 338 horsepower now in this particular XT Solterra. The entry-level models just get a little bit less power. And of course, dual motor all-wheel drive is standard across the range for the Subaru Solterra lineup. And this all helps to enable 60 miles an hour to now happen in around a Subaru claimed 4.9 seconds, which is actually pretty respectably quick. This thing actually has some chops now when it comes to in the power department. And as I mentioned, quite a lot has actually changed on the charging front. So for starters, the charge door has now moved over to the passenger side over here. Press this little piece open, it pops open. No power adjustment here, but I think that's totally fine. And you're gonna find we actually now have the all new NACS port, or the North American Charging Standard, aka the Tesla port, is now the only port you'll get standard on this vehicle. Of course, now that means you're going to need to use a NACS to CCS adapter if you're going to want to charge at like Electrify America or EV Go Station. Even for level 2 charging, you're going to need a NACS to J1772 adapter if you don't have a Tesla-style level 2 charger at your home. So this is something to consider. But all things aside, this does future-proof this vehicle, which is nice to see, and all of the upcoming new Subaru EVs are also going to have this port coming standard, which is pretty nice. Now, we also are getting improved DC fast charging speeds. Now, previously, it was around 100 kilowatts. Now that top peak speed can be hit around 150 kilowatts. But that is not the whole story here. What's really improved, actually, is the whole overall fast charging curve. Before, all the way up to around 80% if you're charging from around 10 or 20%. It's going to take, well, it used to take quite a long time. The charging curve would kind of really peak off really high in the higher speeds and kind of dip really far down quite quickly. This one, which we just tested the other day in a really cold temperature, it was around 30 degrees, it was snowing outside. We do have improved battery preconditioning now. I was able to sustain well north of around 80 kilowatts all the way up until around 80% state of charge. That is a huge colossal performance improvement in terms of charging. So you're not going to be sitting at the charger if you're on a road trip for as long as you were in the previous generation or previous pre-facelifted Subaru Solterra. Also, we're seeing improved level 2 charging speeds. I think those have been bumped up to around 11 kilowatts from around 7 kilowatts from before. I just still wish that Subaru would improve their charging information that they provide you on the interior, because it is a little bit on the bare minimum. There does seem to be a different kind of display we see on the actual instrument cluster, but it doesn't always stay up the whole time. You got to open the door or turn on the vehicle to get it to see, and it's still not the most comprehensive amount of information. And one of the other massive changes that you probably have already noticed on this 2026 Solterra is the design is totally different up front. And I think it's for the better. This looks so much more cohesive, more Subaru in that sense than the facelifted Subaru Solterra. We have an all new front fascia up here, which I think looks really distinctive and really nice. I'm a huge fan of these new LED headlights over here, really unique. And this is going to be, I think, the new Subaru lighting signature for their EVs and potentially future products going down the road. We're also getting repositioned headlights, so we have these really bright LED headlights in this lower section over here. Though I will note, we no longer have those little fog lights that we saw on the pre-facelifted Solterra, so this is kind of going to be your new look. Another really great feature is you have a lot of different paint options, and on top of a lot of different paint options, those giant, blocky, unpainted matte black plastic fenders and stuff are gone, which I am a huge fan of. Thanks Subaru for doing that, because it makes the car look so much better. Now this is the fully loaded Touring XT leather trim is what it says on their website. There's also a Touring XT and I believe a limited XT. XT just stands for that higher power output. There's I think 1 or 2 trims that only have around 233-ish horsepower. But nonetheless, you can actually get these in either this two-tone finish on this Touring XT leather trim. So we have the blue over black painted side fenders, or you can get this in all full body color all around, which I think looks really nice. But overall, on the visual department, this thing has been really improved, and they've also improved aerodynamics as well on this front nose cone, as well as introducing new side mirrors as well to help improve aerodynamics. And they even kind of reshaped some of this door frame area to help both improve sound as well as the aerodynamic function of the car. So overall, it's a little bit more efficient in all spaces, and under the skin, Subaru has made so many improvements. In these upper B pillars up here, we have some more sound absorbing material. There's now insulated and acoustic glass all around, so it's not as loud on the road or on the highway. And we're also getting some revised stuff in the doors as well to make them a little bit more dense and solid, so you're not going to get more vibrations or stuff. So they really have listened to customer feedback and made a lot of these real world changes that we're seeing on this 2026 Solterra. And as I mentioned, this car really is thought up completely differently in the sense, because even on the wheel, tire, and suspension front, we're getting a lot of differences. So of course we have these nice 20-inch wheels we have on this particular one. There's a few different wheel options you can get on your 2026 Solterra. This Bridgestone tire has been proven to be pretty good actually. It's pretty quiet on the road, which is nice up until you get around, I would say like 70-ish miles per hour. You really don't hear too much coming from this whole area. So that's going to a testament of all the new sound insulation Subaru has added to this vehicle. Under the skin over here, we are actually getting revised front suspension components, as well as revised rear suspension components, and a little bit of some retuning going on with that steering rack up front as well. So again, lots of little changes have been made here and there to make this experience overall more comfortable, more compliant, better riding on the road, and just an overall better experience for you as a buyer. Out on the rear of the 2026 Solterra, you're going to notice a few changes as well. We now have the Subaru logo spelled out back here, which I think is a nice touch. And overall, this isn't too dramatically different than the pre-facelifted Solterra back here. We still have these kind of unique fins over here, a little bit of a different design, again, for better aerodynamics, which is a cool touch. No rear wiper back here, still one giant piece of glass, though thankfully we do have a camera as a rear mirror as an option. Coming down here, we may not have a painted body piece back here, but this is really the only unpainted black plastic I could find on the exterior. So thank you, Subaru, for keeping that to a minimum. And down here, you're gonna note some really aggressive underbody diffuser sections to help, again, improve that aerodynamic flow over the vehicle to make it more efficient, which it actually is. Taillight design still remains this kind of unique boomerang style shape over here, and we have some blacked out Subaru logos, including the logo itself is all blacked out, which I think is a really nice touch. Now, opening up our trunk over here, of course we are getting a power tailgate on the Solterra, which is a nice touch over here. Opens pretty quickly. Motors are a little loud, but you have quite a lot of space back here. It's around 24 cubic feet of storage with this second row folded up. Fold that second row down, you're gonna get around 64 cubic feet of storage space. It's actually quite good in terms of storage space, and the opening is really wide and low at the same time, which is, I think, typical of Subarus, because that makes it really easy to load in boxes and stuff without lifting too high up. Opening up our floor panel over here, we're actually gonna find some more stuff under here. So we have a little bit more space for some storage over here. So this one has a charging cable bag, for example, so that's going to be stuffed underneath here. And other than that, that's really not too much it over here. We're not going to find any sort of spare, I believe, on this vehicle. We do have a little bit of some additional side storage, but our left-hand side over here, the driver's side, is filled up with our subwoofer for our upgraded Harman Kardon audio system. And on the right-hand side over here, we actually have a household-style outlet that we can actually turn on or off. Now we got to go take a look at this interior, because they have changed so much stuff for this 2026 model year to make it a way more better interior experience. Now, our first test before we hop in the interior is always, of course, to check to see how wide the doors open. And thankfully, on the Solterra, it's a pretty wide opening, not a full 90-degree angle, but the opening to get in the vehicle and the space inside is actually really quite large. That has not changed really for this model year whatsoever. Anyways, let's go hop inside and see what's new here. We do have this leather option, as I mentioned. This is a specific trim. You do not have to option it. You can get leather-free materials if you do like, but this is a two-tone blue and black leather interior option. So you can see this giant piece of that on the door panel over here. Up here is this injected molded material, and down here we have more plastic style with a window control switch, a little storage cubby, as well as some really large door pockets that look like they're designed to hold some really big, large water bottles. All kind of plastic material down here, which is expected, but over here you can see we have the upgraded all-weather floor mats on this particular one. And just have a look at how large this interior space is back here, and these really cool two-tone black and blue interior seat design. So let's hop inside and see what's going on in this space. As I mentioned, getting inside is really easy. Just hop inside just like that, and a lot of space already, which is nice. Let's see if the door thunk has changed since they've increased the sound insulation in the doors. A little bit more solid. Let's have another go at that. This feels very light for a door, but it has a little bit more of a solid feel than I guessed it did before. Let's see if these rear windows are double paned. They don't appear to be. I believe the front windows are double paned, but otherwise it's pretty roomy back here. I have quite a lot of knee room and leg room. It's actually quite spacious. This is my driving position up front over here as well. Foot space underneath the seat though, with it all the way down, I actually can't fit my feet under the seat, so that could be a little bit of a detriment to some folks. Otherwise though, the amount of just general room back here is huge. This vehicle's kind of built like a box, so you have a lot of space back here. This particular higher end version is also getting these really nice heated rear seats with outboard seats, so 3-stage heating there, 2 higher powered now USB-C ports back here as well. We are also getting our own air vents, which is a wonderful touch. And also down here, nothing. Unfortunately, there's no sort of storage in this space, but again, really nice open floor section over here. It's pretty much completely flat as well. And again, these seats are quite nice. I think the coloring, but the only issue I'm having right now is my knees are quite high up. So as you can see, they're kind of like sticking straight up. That's largely due to these seats being completely flat. There isn't a lot of scallop to them, which means your legs kind of feel like they're floating sometimes if you're sitting back here, which could be uncomfortable in some scenarios. Also back here, we are getting storage behind these both front driver and passenger seats up here. So nice big storage cubbies on either side. And we are also getting our own little folding down armrest over here. So fold that down. We're getting 2 cup holders as well as this little slit over here, which you can shove your phone in or something, which is nice. And it seems to be pretty sturdy. It's not going to flop down as well, which is a nice touch. Up here, we're getting an interior illumination, which is LED lit, which is really nice. And of course, this one has this really large glass fixed roof here, which does have a sunshade to close it, which is a nice touch. So it's not always open if you don't want it to be, but this does not open itself, the piece of glass. It will always be fixed. In terms of other amenities back here, we do have some grab handles back here, as well as some hooks, which is a nice touch. And do these seats recline at all? Let's see, we have a button over here. Ooh, they do. So we actually have reclining rear seats. The angle is actually quite a difference here. So you can see, pull it up like this. That kind of holds into position, or I can put it completely flat black back. Got a little bit more of a reclining angle back here, but that doesn't really fix my legs floating situation over here. But I would say the recline is a nice touch. Now, the real changes on this interior are actually happening up front here. So let's go hop up front in the driver's seat and see what's new for 2026. Before we go hop up front, we do have our key fob right here from Subaru, which is, I would say it's nothing really special at all. It's just a piece of plastic. Subaru logo, lock, unlock, open our trunk, and we also have a kind of climate preconditioning button on there as well. And we do have keyless access on the front 2 doors, not on the rear doors. This front door though opens really, really wide. You can just see how easy it is to get in and out of this interior up front here, which I think is a great touch. Door panel up front here is pretty much the same as we saw out back. Nice big storage pockets on the lower section, a larger Harman Kardon speaker up front over here, and a whole bunch more buttons. We have memory as well for our front seats, and then we are getting full power front seats as well, so the driver is getting lumbar, and we have a few different power adjustment as well. And this one also gets these all-weather floor mats up front here with the Solterra logo in it, which is a nice touch. Hopping inside, again, really easy. Let's see the door thunk on these doors up front here. A little bit more solid than out back. And oh boy, this is a really big updated space. So hopping inside, you're gonna notice the vehicle doesn't just start when you just put your foot on the brake or hop inside. You do still have a big old power button over here. Once you put your foot on the brake, start it up. And it takes a little bit of a second to all come to life. You should get this huge animation that pops up on your center display over here and on your upper cluster. It does take a few seconds to kind of all come to life and over here, as you can see, but this is a colossally updated space for this model year. I do have to say that. So let's dive into all the new features here. So off the bat, we have a new steering wheel design. It's now this kind of squared off circle design steering wheel over here, and it is, I believe, wrapped in the same leather we're getting on the seats, which is a nice touch. Button wise, this hasn't really changed too much. It's a little bit of a funky design over here. So our left hand side is to control volume and some stuff. Right hand side is where we're going to control our adaptive cruise control, a lot of safety systems, but as well as control our forward and reverse track for our infotainment system. We're getting paddle shifters on here for a few different stages of regenerative braking, though for some reason this car still does not offer full one pedal driving. We have a driver monitor up here as well for attention awareness, though you can see right here in my current position, this steering wheel still blocks a little bit of this gauge cluster up here. And I've had that issue on the pre-facelifted Solterra. That doesn't seem to have changed, and I don't really like this screen that much. I'm sorry, Subaru. It's just not my favorite thing on the planet. It's really far back, which I guess is nice for, you know, your line of sight, but it's a little bit cluttered with information sometimes. And the second you kind of go over to the side panel over here, this just doesn't look the most modern or advanced thing. I do like this little consumption page over here, which is nice. So that shows you either your total or live consumption. And we've been getting pretty good efficiency actually this week. I got up to 3.5, and on one drive we did over 5 miles per kilowatt hour, but that was largely downhill. We have audio, we have a battery health status, which is pretty interesting. I haven't seen too many vehicles do that. Otherwise, this is kind of the same, just a little bit different. We do have automatic headlights over here as well as automatic wipers, which is a wonderful touch. And we have physical buttons over here for our trip computer as well, and physical buttons over here for our automatic high beams. We have headlight washers, which is a cool touch, as well as our trunk release. Physical buttons over here for automatic side folding mirrors, lock, unlock, window controls. These are all pretty nice. And as well, like I mentioned, our memory, which has a funky sound when you do it. Listen to this. A really loud beep there. But the rest of the interior, the only thing I would say about this is it's a little bit on the plasticier side around all the materials, especially compared to something like, you know, some of the new Hyundai EVs or some of the other EVs coming out in this segment. Sure, they all use a lot of plastics in the interior, but these just feel a little bit more budget scale, I would say, in some areas. Not in a necessarily bad way. It's just, I guess, more of a preference for you. If you want something a little bit more premium feeling, you may want to go, I guess, with a competitor in some areas. Otherwise, in here, we do have some new features. So we actually are getting radiant heating in here. Now, we saw these panels on the Lexus RZ, which actually shares an architecture with this vehicle just a few years ago. Now we have it on the Solterra. So since we don't have a glove box here, we are getting this huge radiant heating panel, so it heats up. It's supposed to keep your legs warm. I also have one as a driver over here under the steering wheel piece over here. It gets very, very hot, I will say. The only weird thing is that it's not really well placed for the driver. You kind of have to sit really close for your knees to even get close to where it is, or to even feel the heat in some cases. But I guess it's a cool solution to try to reduce using the fan, which uses a lot of your range. Now, since we don't have a glove box, we do get a huge colossal storage piece down here, which thankfully is felt lined. We are getting some more higher power USB-C ports up here as well. So you can see 2 USB-C ports as well as a traditional cigarette style outlet over there. So this is a pretty nice space, but it doesn't lock. As you can see, it's just all open. Otherwise, we don't really have any other storage in this center console area over here, which thankfully has been totally redesigned from before. We had this sliding tray before, which is a little funky. Now we're getting this huge panel over here with 2 wireless charging pads over here, and our shifter in the center, drive, neutral, reverse, park over here as well. We're getting lots of physical buttons too. So we have our camera view angles, hold for our auto brake hold, electronic parking brake, as well as our drive mode selector, traction control, X modes, and we have this kind of off-road style cruise control slash hill descent control system over here with our X modes, which is a nice touch. We can adjust our speed, I believe, right there. One thing about this panel over here, I would say, has been creaking and rattling the whole week. I don't know where it's coming from. It's extremely annoying. Sorry to be complaining about that, but that was just one of my things I've noticed this week. Otherwise, I love all the physical buttons and stuff in here. It's really easy and simple to use, even though I would kind of prefer some more storage over 2 charging pads, which aren't the quickest charging. Over here, we have 2 cup holders, which are kind of recessed in this little panel over here. And in the center console armrest is this sort of soft touch piece over here, which honestly also has been rattling a lot this week. It hasn't really felt super sturdy, I would say, but it does have this kind of split fan style opening design over here, and this doesn't lock either, but you do get a decent amount of storage space in here. It is kind of loaded up with some adapters and stuff right now and some other information, since we don't have a glove box in this vehicle. But here are your storage solutions in the Subaru Solterra still. Now, also I mentioned up here we have a digital rear view mirror, which has HomeLink integrated in it as well, but we can also just make it a regular mirror if you do want to do that as well, which is a nice touch. And up here we have controls for our sunshade as well, which is a little bit on the louder side. So if you close it, it does actually move quite quickly, which is a nice touch. So if you want to get that sun out of your head, that's an easy thing to do. But as you can see right there, it does cover up that whole shade of glass. We also are getting pretty large side mirrors that don't slide themselves, but they do have a little extender, which goes almost all the way to the end of this piece over here, which is a nice touch. And LED lighting in here, which is a nice premium upgraded feature. Now, the real main highlight of this interior, though, is the all-new infotainment system. Now, this infotainment system is extremely familiar to us, but if you have not seen a Toyota or Lexus product today, this is basically that system. So if you've seen modern Lexuses, they kind of have a similar layout of this really colossal large screen combined with these sort of floating dials over here for our climate control. So this is how we're adjusting our temperature on here. It's sort of integrated into the screen, which is pretty cool actually. And this climate section down here is always going to be there. Even though it is on the touchscreen, it's always in this panel. This doesn't really move ever. Otherwise, this system, as I've said in the Lexus and Toyota products, it's just a little too basic, and I think that's good in a few aspects. It's very easy to use. There's not a lot of information overload, but in some other aspects, it's a little bit, I think, lacking some information. Like I mentioned, EV charging information. All I really get in here is if I go to here, I can go to battery preconditioning. I get a charging schedule here, and that's about it. That's about all of my EV information I'm getting in this vehicle. We can see our all-wheel drive split, which is, I guess, kind of cool while you're driving. There's some trip information in here, and there's this huge driver assist panel to kind of access and turn on and off all your different driver assist systems. Vehicle customized in here. We can adjust our lights and interior illumination, since this one actually gets ambient lighting on side, which is something that we don't typically see on Subarus. And we have any color you want, so you can do any color you want ambient lighting. It's in the doors, it's in the front entire dash as well, which is really nice actually. So thank you, Subaru, for including this, but you cannot adjust this while you're driving. And I also have the issue here is I can't actually view my cameras when I'm in park. So every time I press this button, it does this little 360 view thing. I have to be in drive to actually access the full camera system here. Otherwise, they're pretty crystal clear, and you get a 360 view, and there's a lot of different views to cycle through in the vehicle. There's this kind of cool like side view that kind of paints the view underneath the vehicle. You can turn on and off these projection lines, and you can have it to be automatic. So every time you come to a stop, even at stop signs, the camera will pop up. So that you can adjust there. So there's a lot of adjustment, I would say, in here. You can even, I think, change the color of the vehicle as well. So I can make it blue like this Solterra is, which is kind of cool. There's advanced park assist as well, which you can activate by this button, which I wouldn't call super advanced, but you do have it if you want to attempt to use it. Otherwise, this is your full camera system. Even in reverse, we get a lot of different views and angles as well to kind of adjust and play around with there. And now you can see our blue Solterra in there, which is a cool little touch. Otherwise, in this infotainment system, there isn't too much stuff. We don't have the climate system, the navigation system built into the vehicle, because this vehicle doesn't have the subscription that has to do it. For example, go to our audio screen over here. We have a few different audio sources we can kind of go through. You can play from your phone, Apple Music, Amazon Music there, radio, but not too much. And this is the phone calling screen there as well. But otherwise, like I mentioned, there is not a lot going on with this screen. Even though it's huge, it's much better, I would say, than before. You really got to use Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, which thankfully is wireless, to kind of get a lot of, real use out of the screen, I would say, in most cases. Other than that, that's about it for this upgrade on this interior. It definitely is an upgrade, like I mentioned. And now let's go take this thing for a drive to see how all these changes mean out on the road. It likes to spin those front tires quite a lot, actually, which is kind of crazy. But this new upgraded power we have here means 0 to 60 happens now in like 4.9 seconds, as Subaru claims. And on top of the fact, it just feels way more powerful just in general in all scenarios, which is really, really nice. You actually feel like you're being shoved kind of a little bit in your seat now with this 2026 Solterra, which I actually really like. I cannot complain about that too much at all. Coming to a stop here, as I mentioned, we have auto brake hold. It's not a gas engine, so we don't have to worry about the engine turning on or off. I just, again, wish there was some sort of a one-pedal driving function for those who do like that. Steering has been revised, as well as the suspension, so it's a little bit quieter, softer on the road. The ride actually reminds me a little bit more so now of the Forester. It's really, really comfortable, isolated from a lot of road imperfections as well, which is really nice. The steering is still pretty vague. It has a pretty good turning radius, I would say, though the steering feel is just, non-existent, pretty vague in general, even though they've made some changes to the front suspension components and steering to help you kind of have a little bit more connection with the vehicle than previous. Even though this thing is really all-wheel drive at all times, you just mash it into a corner and it just goes all down on those front tires sometimes, which is kind of crazy. But handling has also been improved. You can see some cross traffic warning as well for us. Lots of nice thrust in the Solterra now. Finally, the regen paddles are a little bit on the louder side to use, but they do a decent job at slowing down the vehicle if you want to kind of either just leave them in a few different settings or adjust it yourself on the fly. You have that ability to do so. The proactive assist, as you can see right here, is actually bringing us to a little bit of some regen automatically, since it realizes this vehicle in front of us is coming to a little bit of a stop. It won't bring you to a full stop, but it will start to slow you down a little bit, even at some stop signs as well. Merging onto a highway, zero issue in this newer Solterra. You have so much more power and thrust than you ever really had before, which is nice in this vehicle. It's really, really quite welcome. And you're gonna notice immediately now on the highway, it's a lot quieter than it was before. Now, yes, it is windy out today, I won't deny that, but it is much quieter out here, specifically on the underfloor portion of this vehicle. There was a lot of road noise coming in, I noticed before. That's pretty much almost, I would say, gone now in some cases. It's really, really isolated, which is a nice thing they did here with this heated steering wheel. Handling, it's pretty good, honestly. You have a low center of gravity. There is some body roll you're gonna feel there, but these seats actually hug you in pretty well. Just not a handling vehicle in any aspect, but all-wheel drive, all that traction, it is pretty, actually quite nice. On some corners, it feels very well planted for what it is. It's just, an everyday mainstream EV. Definitely feels a little more solid and planted than a Forester, for example, but it's not too far off from that type of similar area of performance. Even in eco mode here, we have a nice amount of shove in the acceleration. Now, I did notice yesterday we dipped below, well below 50% state of charge. We are actually dipped into the 30 and 20s. We notice a little bit of some power reduction, actually. And on the highway out here, we have so much great adaptive cruise control style systems. So that's easy to access on the right-hand side of our steering wheel over here. All we got to do is press this button once we merge into traffic here. And It says adaptive cruise is ready. You set your speed and you're good to go. Now again, we don't really have a heads-up display, which you don't need really because we have this digital cluster in front of us up here, though it is a little bit confusing sometimes to see the information because it's so tiny and really kind of compacted into that screen. And if you don't have your steering wheel in the right position, it may be blocked entirely. So if I scrouch down just a little bit, that whole lower portion of the dash becomes invisible to me. And we have a few different levels of distance adjustment here. I believe like 1, 2, 3, 4 different distance levels of adjustment. We also can turn on and off our lane keep and steering assist here. This is a always hands-on style system, I believe, in this vehicle. That's what I've experienced this week at least. So it does a pretty good job at holding the lane and keeping it kind of centered around corners. There's a few different adjustments you can make to how it tackles speed in corners and how it adjusts for different situations on the highway in this setting. So it's pretty configurable actually. Coming off an exit ramp here, again, we'll just throw on to our regen braking here. You kind of play with these different regen levels, even though it does have this almost natural regenerative braking, it just kind of does. But coming to a stop is also pretty smooth as well in this Subaru Solterra. But overall, I do vividly remember my first time driving a Solterra, the pre-facelift one, and this is notably quieter on the interior. It's notably softer with the suspension, even with these 20-inch wheels, which is a really nice thing to see. Overall, this is definitely an enhanced package than this pre-facelift Solterra. And with the upgraded range, the upgraded charging curve, charging times, improved cold weather charging performance, I think this is definitely more of a leaning on like you can actually recommend this vehicle, I would say, versus before. It's much more caught up with the times than it was before. But still, even with all these upgrades and changes, it is lagging just a little bit behind than some of the competition. We have vehicles out here such as the Kia EV6 or Hyundai Ioniq 5, which are offering higher voltage architectures with much quicker charging speeds, a little bit more premium feeling cabins as well, and a little bit better use of their electric vehicle architectures with like front trunks and some things. So while I would say this 26 Solterra is galactically improved, it's still not the best, I would say best in class, but it is definitely more of a buy, I would say, than it was before. I would definitely want to consider one more now than I did previously. So hats off to Subaru for actually listening to their customers, to owners of Solterra, and making all of these modifications for this update. It is really improved. I would go test drive one if you are considering one now. Let that decision be up to you. But as always, guys, thank you for joining us on yet another full tour and review and drive of this 2026 Subaru Solterra over at Allcarnews. And as always, stay tuned for more coming soon. Cheers.